And now, Senator Bartolotta, you've been recognized as a leader in the legislature in addressing criminal justice issues. Are some of your successes that have broken down some of these barriers, particularly, those barriers concerning employment?
Absolutely. Well, I think monumentally would be the clean slate legislation, and that was actually a House success, thankfully. Cheryl Delosier, Jordan Harris, and I think it actually started in the Senate with Senator Scott Wagner several years ago. But I think this is something that is nonpartisan, and it's the first of its kind in the country. We can be very proud of that for Pennsylvania. But the clean slate legislation was a remarkable success to seal the records of people with nonviolent offenses after 10 years of having a great record. That was just, again, the first step. And I know that there are other pieces of legislation moving forward in building on that for, so many years after a nonviolent felonies, certain other misdemeanors and things. But to seal someone's record is phenomenal. I was working on some legislation. I think it got picked up by someone else, and it was to have automatic expungement. If you have been given the highest form of forgiveness from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a pardon, you should have your record automatically expunged. And that's not the case. And it costs a lot of money. And you need to go to every area where those records have been filed, and you have to look into it. Some people think that when they get a pardon, that it's all done. It's not. You need to go through those steps. And I was just speaking with someone yesterday, as a matter of fact, about a group that may be interested in doing some pro bono work and doing the legwork and the legal work for free expungement, preparation for people. I'm also working with the Pardons Project of Washington County. They're doing phenomenal work, and they're training volunteers that will help people get that pardon that they need, because the huge obstacle to employment is a record. And even if you've been arrested in Pennsylvania and not convicted, that arrest appears on your record and you have to explain it, even if you're not found guilty. That is a huge barrier that has to change. And that was part of the language of my legislation, was that if you are arrested and not convicted, you should receive an automatic free expungement of that record. So those are a couple of the things that we, again, it was the clean slate law. We've got occupational license reform, which is incredibly meaningful. We had an antiquated phraseology in statute in Pennsylvania, and it was very sexist and very misogynistic. And it was for those seeking cosmetology licenses, and you had to be of what, like a clean moral character or some ridiculous, vague, hoop skirt nonsense that doesn't exist for a barber's license. So that's something that needed to be wiped off the face of the earth. So, and again, that will go a long way into alleviating that problem, especially for women who are coming out of incarceration looking for licensure and to have meaningful work, to even be entrepreneurs and create their own business. But it was a Schwenk, and it was, DeSanto and Schwenk. This was passed in June of 2020. It became Act 53, and it does more than just that. But it just, it addresses the issue of certain practice acts containing language with automatic bans for crimes of moral turpitude or certain and good moral character provisions. Anyway, so that was just one of them. But we have certain, and again, I visit many correctional institutions, many. As a matter of fact, Sunday I'll be going to SEI Chester for like the 12th time, I think. But when it comes to women coming out of incarceration, and even those, the men, they have worked very hard to achieve licensure or certification while they're incarcerated, but then they come out and they find, oh, sorry, based on your criminal record, yes, we know that you're a cosmetologist, or yes, we know that you're now a barber, but you can't get a license for that because of your record. And many of these, they've had to pay for that training and spend the time to do that and are looking forward to a life on the outside, and the door gets slammed in their face. So these are things we're addressing with that legislation. We also have my legislation is SB 766, and that's Adult Education and Workforce Recovery Grant Program. And I'm seeking to get $15 million in the American Rescue Plan Act money to put towards competitive grants that can be used by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And it lays out specifically what organizations can use that funding. And it would go such a long way to educating and re-educating and giving soft skills to adults in any walk of life, in any transition kind of thing. If they're going from one career to another, if they've never worked before, if it's maybe, a mom who decides now that she wants to get into the workforce, or if it's a re-entering citizen, especially women who don't have those skills that they need to jump into the workforce. So the Literacy Council and so many others, we've got all sorts of different entities, community colleges, local intermediate units, career and technical schools, different school districts. All of them can compete for this parts of this grant, and it's for adult education. And we are in dire need of that because we didn't have a skilled trained workforce before COVID. So many people retired, they dropped out of the workforce because of fear, teachers included, nurses included, frontline workers. A lot of these people have decided I don't feel safe. So we need to replace a lot of those folks with those that want to be in the workforce but don't have the skills that set them up for success. And I think this would go a very long way in providing that. Again, my probation reform bill that was being voted on today, get people who are desperate to get back to their lives the ability to do so, remove the barriers. It's really been interesting what's happened since the beginning of 2019 when we started the Criminal Justice Reform Caucus, because all of us have been in that caucus. Our phones were ringing off the hook. All of us were inundated with interest from both sides of the aisles. I mean, the big joke was, what do Van Jones and Newt Gingrich have in common? The Koch brothers and the ACLU, it's criminal justice reform. Suddenly the party affiliation falls away and the goal becomes crystal clear. And it's wonderful to see the attention. The Pew Foundation came and visited me right off the bat, and that was part of the juvenile justice report and study that they did that is just so telling and has just garnered such success in other states. And we need to do things differently. We need to prevent incarceration to begin with. We need to invest in family counseling, in diversionary programs for young people. We need to teach anger management. We need all of these other things that can start very, very, very early and prevent behaviors from developing later on. So I think it's wonderful to see the interest across the board, across the aisle, and across the building, focusing on how do we make lives better for people who've made a horrible mistake.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the goal. Mm-hmm.
What impresses me when I'm listening to you and what you're working on, but then what the others to this point, is all these programs that are out there at the ready, in effect, to bring in, in terms of education, trying to help out with childcare, or trying to help, some with transportation, some companies like Flagger Force. And this idea of it taking a village, we're all part of this village, and it really, do you say, behooves us to get involved. And I think, Jen, you show as a private employer that a company, a person can make a huge difference in not just one person's life, and that would be grand, but also a contingent of your employees, and what it does to their children, and in some fashion, it's showing the respect and the embrace of sort of safety that you're offering them. You're in a way a diversionary program, unbeknownst to you, perhaps, and in your way. But I look at this and I'm impressed by all these different ways of approaching the same problem, and it gives me chills. I mean, I'm not trying to make it soft, because I think this is deadly serious. But the way from all parts of the state, whether it's public or private, those of you who are engaged in this issue, it's a force. You really are a force, and it's really quite impressive.